Things seem to be getting uglier and uglier each week. The Jets fall 37-22 to the Cowboys. Aaron Glenn, the first Jets head coach to start his tenure with the Jets, 0-5. The Jets, the only team in the NFL right now without a victory. 3 teams went into week 5 without a win. The Jets, the only one coming out. Tim McMaster here along with Zach Rosenblatt. Thanks for joining us on the Flight Plan podcast. Thanks you. Welcome to the baggage handlers who are joining us live on YouTube. Give us a 5-star review, write an actual review, thumbs up, all that stuff. This is the 4-down edition, Zach. So we're going to focus on 4 distinct things. I'll start here. What's worse, watching that game live yesterday or going to the DMV this morning?
Well, actually, going to the DMV this morning wasn't as terrible as it was going on Thursday. But the problem with I've had trouble trying to get my real ID. Go on Thursday. The line's so long and it takes so long. They're like, you have to come back at some point in the next 2 weeks. Well, today's the only day I could go because I'm going to London, and I go, and they're like, you need a proof of address. The one I have wasn't satisfactory to them, so I wasn't able to get my real ID again. But at least I got right in. Was able to come home, get it here in time for this pod, and talk about the terrible New York Jets. But I would say that game was awful. Like, I mean, I'm not going to go on a rant because I've done enough of those, and I don't really have much new to say about it because it's all the same stuff, just worse. And now there's a part of me that fears that I'm going to be traveling again after London, and we're going to have some flashbacks, and not Aaron Glenn, but like there will be a significant change of some sort. I'm not reporting anything. I'm just saying, like, I feel nervous about that, I would say.
Yeah. So before we jump in, I'll just do this. Instead of you ranting, I'll let Brian Sternbeck do some ranting. There's no such thing as a Jets fan, he says on the stream. There are people in this world who wake up each morning and decide they haven't suffered enough and decide to commit to the embodiment of pain and self-loathing.
I mean, there's a comment in there that says bring back Adam Gase. That's where we're at right now. So, I mean, I'm assuming that's a joke, but
all right. First down, 147 seconds. I thought it was a really nice way of you kind of opening your story on the game where it all went bad. It was already bad. Like, it's not like the game was going great. The Jets were down 10-3, but they were driving. And with 2 minutes and 27 seconds left in the first half, the ball was handed off to Breece Hall, who had been playing very good football in this game. On the opening drive, he was breaking tackles. He was electric. And Breece fumbles the football inside the 10-yard line. They were getting close. 2 weeks in a row, they're on the doorstep. They fumble. The Cowboys recover it, go 91 yards for the score. But that wasn't all, because they kick off. And Aaron Glenn, I think I give him props, wasn't like, we're going to kneel on this thing and go huddle up. He was like, no, you know what? Let's go in there and get some points before the half. They throw the ball 3 and out, get back to the Cowboys, 66-yard run, another play, touchdown. They missed the extra point. Cowboys 13 points in that. They went from the Jets scoring 7 going into the half to the Cowboys scoring 13. That was it. We'll start there, Zach.
I mean, the game ended right there. Like, that's the reality. Like, it absolutely did. And even worse, that the Cowboys were going to have the ball to start the second half. They wound up going 3 and out. The Jets had like a couple 3 and outs to start the second half, but it's the same old shit of like too little, too late. Like, that's just the story of the Aaron Glenn
Ian O'Connor actually wrote the same old Jet story for the Athletic.
Yeah, he actually Ian, who does a great job. Obviously, he got Brian Schottenheimer like coming out of the locker room one-on-one and like asked him like the same old Jets thing. He's like, well, I don't think so because he was on the coaching staff that was the last one to be good. So in his mind, it's like he didn't experience this really. But yeah, I mean, that sequence just summed up the Jets this year. Like, they, you can keep saying, we're just 1 or 2 mistakes away, but when you do it every week, and it was the same thing we talked about last year and in the last couple of years with Saleh and Ulbrich to a different degree, but the defense wasn't this bad. Like, they were able to at least lean on the defense over the last couple of years. Maybe before the second half of last year, but they were able to lean on the defense even when the offense was, fumbling the ball away or making these terrible mistakes. And now you can't rely on that. And so Aaron Glenn did that because he had confidence in the defense that they would be able to. He did the thing where he threw the ball 3 times, failed to get sacked on the second play, by the way. And he did that because he believed that if it didn't work, the defense, and Sauce talked about this, he's like, we were on the sideline, like, okay, this means he's confident in us that we can get this stop if the offense gets the ball back and we have to go out there. Well, in the first play, one of the worst displays of tackling they've had all season, and that's saying something, where Javonte Williams, who's having a good year, but I don't think he's a star by any stretch. Like, he shouldn't be running all over you the way he did. Tyler Barron has him squared up and just like slides right off him. Like, Tyler Barron, I'm sorry, does not belong on an NFL field. I know Joe Caporoso has been saying that for weeks now. So he misses him, and then he gets to the next level, and there's like, I think 4 guys who are kind of approaching him. There's like a blocker in there, but I believe it's Jamie and Sherwood, Tony Adams, Isaiah Oliver, and I believe there's one more. None of those guys tackle him. So he gets all the way to the 1 yard line. Malachi Moore, to his credit, has a hustle play to tackle him at the 1, I believe. And then they just have an easy touchdown pass to Jake Ferguson on the next play. And like, that's the Jets defense in a nutshell. Missed tackles, missed assignments. It felt like low effort to a degree. Everybody seems to be pushing back on that, at least from Aaron Glenn's perspective. But like, how else can you explain being this bad at tackling if like the effort is not at least a part of it? Like, I think it would be lying to say that they're giving 100% effort on these plays. Like, there's some long plays where you look and like, who is hustling on this play? And I don't really have an answer. So, but yeah, I focused on that sequence because it summed up what happened in this game, and really nothing that happened after that matters, because it seems like this is going to be the Justin Fields experience, where his numbers are going to look good at the end of the game, but like, they don't amount to anything because it's when you're down 30-3 or whatever it is, or whatever. Like, I forget what the highest total was that they were down, but he had 280 passing yards, and I believe they had 100 net passing yards going into the fourth quarter or close to that. And that's awful. Anyway, I don't want to step on the other stuff, but like that sequence and the way this game started, and look, like you said, it's not like they were looking amazing before that. Like, you can act like they were on track to win or whatever, but like, Brees was carrying the offense and the team. And even after the fumble, he did to a degree.
Yeah.
But it's a second straight week where they're threatening, they're getting into the red zone, and they fumble the ball away. And even worse, that it was a punch out when Aaron Glenn literally had a boxing glove this week and was trying to punch balls out of the guy's hands in practice, and it didn't matter because Brees didn't see the guy coming. You've seen worse fumbles than that, but still, you need to be able to hold on to the ball. And so now we're sitting here with the Jets at 0-5 because of a sequence of events where they just shot themselves in the foot. And as Aaron Glenn said, and this was the one thing he was supposed to change, and that's why I was so high on his hire coming into the year, because if you looked at the Lions last year, they had guys dropping left and right, and the defense was still competing at the end of the year, and they didn't crumble when things went wrong. And the defense and the team and the defense is crumbling when things go wrong, and that was supposed to be the one thing he was going to change. And so, you can say it's going to take time. He deserves patience. This team isn't that good, blah, blah, blah. I think that's all kind of BS excuse making, because they're 0-5 in a way that almost no team has ever been 0-5. And a lot of things Aaron Glenn was supposed to, if not fix right away, like show improvement on, they haven't. So, it's anyway, that sequence, mistakes on offense, the offensive line, pass blocking, letting up a sack on that sequence. The defense just like completely like, not giving up, but giving up those plays is just inexcusable. Like, this is a bad defense.
And we'll get more into Glenn a little bit later. Second down, I want to focus this in on the Pickens long touchdown, the 43-yard touchdown pass. There's plenty of bad defense in this game that we could discuss, but we're supposed to be focused on this part of the episode. So let's focus on that one. Sauce was in coverage, but after the game, asked about the play and what went wrong. Sauce's response was busted coverage. So does that mean it was supposed to be a double team? He was supposed to get safety help over the top? I don't know, but I do know I read the responses to your tweet about it, Zach, and it felt like the fan base was turning a bit on Sauce for that response.
Yeah, I mean, look, that touchdown put the Jets down 30-3. They were down 23-3. Like, they were already out of it, but that like really put them out of it. So, but yeah, look, whether he's right or not, and maybe he is. Like, it looked like Tony Adams was the one on the back end there. He probably was supposed to be over there, and he wasn't. But like, Sauce is supposed to be a leader on this team, and frankly, like, I think he has the right intentions, but he does not do a good job of saying, I need to be better. He does not do a good job of saying, this is on me. Like, you need a point, whether you believe it or whether it's true, it doesn't matter, honestly. Like he wanted to be a captain. He said so, but like, that is not captain behavior. Like that's Aaron Rodgers pointing the finger behavior. And whether it's accurate or not, like Mike Williams was supposed to be on the red line. That's true. Aaron Rodgers didn't need to call that out in the
going
postgame
back
press
to
conference.
the red line.
Yeah. Yeah. But so like, I just think Sauce, I think he's so focused on like his reputation, I think, and I get it because people come after him as much as any like star player I can remember. But like the star players and the leaders take that and they don't like use it to like try and respond to the line of questioning because most weeks like he'll make sure to point out even in a loss like, yeah, well, I only held him to X amount of catches, and while it might be true, like that's not what you should be focusing on. And his quotes where he's talking about how he can't sleep because he can't figure out why things are going wrong, like that's good stuff. Like that's the stuff you want to be saying. But that message gets lost when you get asked what happened on a touchdown you gave up. And you can even say busted coverage, but also like at the end of the day, he was my man and I shouldn't have let that happen. And maybe I need to be part of the reason, maybe I need to be the one helping communicate better that, the safety needs to be in this spot. Like, you can't use the excuse you're young anymore because you're in your fourth year and you want to be a leader. So I think Sauce needs to be better about the way he talks about his performance in these games. Like even if you had the absolute best game, that shouldn't matter. Like I think it was 23 when the Jets lost 10-3 to the Patriots that one week. Carl Lawson had this like great quote after the game where like, the defense only gave up 3 points. Like one of them was a punt return touchdown. And Carl Lawson was like, well, we gave up 3 points. That was too many. Like that was the standard he was holding himself and the defense too. And I'm not saying you need to talk like that every week because that was when the defense was just like dominating and it didn't matter. But like that's the kind of the Jets need people like that in this locker room to be talking like that. And Garrett Wilson's the only one that really talks like it. And I'm not saying I don't think Sauce cares. I don't think that's the case. There's guys in this locker room that really do care, but I don't think Sauce is helping himself with this fan base and publicly when he does things like that, while also, again, not forcing turnovers and not making plays on the ball. Like he just hasn't been doing that. And, the Jets are, okay, I won't step on future stuff. But anyway, like Sauce needs to be, I think he hasn't played as poorly as maybe people think. Like if you just look at, snaps per target and snaps per reception and things like that, I think ultimately it looks worse because like a lot of times the moments these plays are happening are big ones or they look really bad, or Baker Mayfield like going after him. But yeah, he needs to be better. And, I don't think this makes him a bad kid. I don't think he's a bad teammate, but I think he's a little too focused on perception, I would say.
We didn't even mention the no turnovers off the top. That should have been in there too. The only no turnover, like literally no turnovers this season. It's really incredible. All right, third down. Justin Fields was sacked 5 times Sunday by a defense that had 5 sacks on the season coming in. This O-line the run blocking was obviously okay. Like Breece Hall ran the ball well, but the pass blocking just terrible. So I'll ask the question to you this way, though. How much of it was on the O-line? How much of it was on Justin Fields holding the ball too long?
I think it's a combo of those things. Across the board, I don't think the O-line was particularly good in the past game. Membo had his first like rough day. I think he had 3 or 4 penalties. I don't have the numbers in front of me. Maybe I'll pull them up while we're talking. But I believe Olu gave up a bunch of pressure. I know early in the game he gave up a really bad one to Dante Fowler. But yeah, Fields also was holding on to the ball too long throughout the game, and it's just a combo of those two things. This O-line has not been consistent. Like they're really, really good in the running game. Like they were opening up holes. Breece was hitting them, and they looked really impressive there. But for whatever reason, the pass blocking has just not been present. And, there was high expectations for this group. We talked about how much losing AVT obviously hurt them. I think they'd be in a lot better shape with AVT, but you don't have him and you have to adjust. And, they made one of the NFL's worst defenses look competent. Like, the Cowboys should not be getting that many sacks against you. They don't have Micah Parsons anymore. And, to not be able to produce when the game was still at hand, like that's, these stats keep looking better than they should because the Jets do well when the other side lets up.
When the game's over.
When the fourth quarter, when you're up by a lot, is the same thing last week against the Dolphins. It was the same thing, not as much in week 1. That was actually a competitive game, but, I think they need to show that they can come out of the gate and finish drives in the end zone and not turn the ball over. And the offensive line is a part of that. They need to be better. They need to get Justin Fields not playing under pressure, because I don't think he's particularly good when he's under pressure, like throwing the ball. And, build on, if Brees is going to run as well as he is, you need a passing game to complement it. Like they still are not like taking really shots down the field until late in the game when the defense is letting up a little bit, and it's hurting this offense. Ultimately, they want to be a team that runs the football. They win through stopping the run and running the football, and they have not been able to do either of those. They've been able to run the ball, but it's hard to win when you're only able to run the ball, is what I should say.
All right, fourth down. We already at fourth down. Fourth down.
We are, yes.
Coaching staff. We mentioned the numbers. 0-5. No Jets coach has ever started a first season that way. The no turnovers. The defense, complete regression from one of the best units in the NFL to maybe the worst. We mentioned the E. O'Connor story, which talked about this is maybe more than Aaron Glenn thought he was getting into. But just big picture here, let's do our weekly check-in on Aaron Glenn, Zach, and how close are we to some change happening here, whether it's who's calling defenses, or I don't know what it is, but are we getting close at 0-5?
I mean, you would think, but the way Aaron Glenn keeps, and I kind of wish you would stop comparing it to the Lions in 2021. Like, you have to just be where your feet are ultimately.
Well, I'll step in on that, because the whole thing with that Lions team was that behind the scenes, they felt like it was building, and you saw the effort and all these different things that I don't think are present with this team.
Well, Aaron Glenn would tell you he thinks they are, but yeah, I agree with you. And so his whole point was, Dan Campbell stuck with me when people wanted me to get fired and get demoted, and he held his ground and he stuck with him. He was a first-time defensive coordinator, whereas Steve Wilks, there is a history of him maybe struggling a little bit to adjust to a new personnel, a new scheme, and all that stuff. He was fired after the 49ers went to the Super Bowl because he didn't really fit their scheme. And I think they're trying to shoehorn him in to a combo of his, Aaron Glenn's, and the previous scheme, which I think is very clearly not working. Aaron Glenn was asked today, he was at I think it was the 3 touchdowns that were basically walk-in touchdowns for the who'd they play, the Cowboys, and he said that those were missed coverage assignments that were messed up, and so he was asked as a follow-up, because you keep having these coverage misses, does that mean you need to simplify the defense? And he said, well, that's only 4 plays. We're not going to change the whole defense because of 4 plays, but it's not just 4 plays. They're having other mistakes and issues around this. And so, the Steve Wilks, he's the most obvious change you can make. And I don't think Aaron Glenn is in any rush to do it, but at the end of the day, he works for an owner that has pressured past coaches to make these sort of changes. Nathaniel Hackett was demoted last year after Saleh was fired, but Saleh didn't want to do that. Or at least publicly he didn't want to, as far as I know. And Mike LaFleur was fired because Woody told Saleh to fire him. So if the defense keeps being one of the worst in the NFL, how can you justify keeping this guy as your defensive play caller at the very least? I'm not saying you need to fire him, but how can you justify that when you have a guy who was a defensive coordinator for the last 4 years for the Lions? I don't know. At a certain point, if you keep losing, something needs to change. And they don't have the personnel adjustments that you can make because the depth is pretty bad across the board. I know people want to say, yeah, play Zaire Thomas over Stevens, play Malachi Moore, who struggled he was playing the nickel corner, which was confusing to me, but play him over Tony Adams. I get that one a little more. Don't play Tyler Barron and Brady McGregor. Don't play Michael Clemens. But the reality is
somebody has to play.
Somebody has to play, and the replacement options, there's absolutely no guarantee it's going to be better. And I'm not saying they shouldn't even do that. I'm not even disagreeing with that theory, but I'm just saying, that's probably not going to win them games ultimately. And so as it regards to Steve Wilks is my point. So, that's the change to make. And that's what I was kind of joking before, last year, for people who don't remember or weren't listening back then, I was in Paris with my wife when they fired Robert Saleh. And so there's a photo of me by the Eiffel Tower working, and ruined my day out there and ruined a lot of other people's days. But I now have fear that when I am in Brussels with my wife this time, changing it up, another short trip from London, I'm worried that when I'm in Brussels, I'm going to get an alert on my phone that Steve Wilkes was demoted or fired. I'm not saying I think it's going to happen. I don't think it's going to happen actually, but my radar's up is what I would say.
What's the landmark in Brussels that you would?
That's a good. I don't know. They are known for their beer, their Belgian beer, and their chocolate and their waffles. So maybe I'll be by a stand while
the waffles. Like I had waffles in Amsterdam, and I think that's as close to, you know what I mean. It's like right there, Benelux.
Yeah.
You're within Benelux.
Okay. I'll report back because apparently there's like two different kinds of waffles, and on one of them you're not supposed to have any toppings on it. That's like frowned upon.
Yeah, they're the sugary ones with the sweetness already baked in. Yeah, exactly. Don't give me that. Give me the other one with like fruit and whipped cream.
That's what I'm aiming for. Yeah. So I'll report back on waffles because that might be a more. Somebody said in the chat, like, you guys might need to start planning your next talk about anything but the Jets pod, and so maybe we talk about waffles.
Yeah, we're gonna have Connor on for that. All right. I guess that's it. Well, let's, to our point last week about the Jets not getting called. Their calls. There was a big one in this game that I don't think anybody realized. I'm sure there were people at home that were like, they should keep the ball, but I didn't. The broadcast didn't. The officials on the field didn't. The officials in New York didn't. Nobody. The Jets. Nobody knew this, but end of the first drive where the Jets have a great longest drive of the year, right? 13 plays. They have the incomplete pass where Fields throws it, goes off the defender, up into the air, and hits the camera, and it's ruled incomplete. And the Jets settle for the field goal. But the Jets should have gotten the down should have been repeated. Now, who knows what happens? They could have turned the ball over on the next play and gotten no points, but they also could have scored a touchdown. So it just fuels the flame of the Jets getting no calls.
Yeah. That was a weird one. Haven't seen something like that before. I mean, it saved them from an interception, to be fair. So maybe the Jets were like, okay with that.
Well, yeah, that's right.
I asked Aaron Glenn about it. I don't know if they protested it in the moment or if that would have helped. He said he made it sound like they were going to check with the league about why that didn't happen. They probably should have tested that pretty hard, or maybe they didn't see it in the moment. Like, I didn't see it when it happened. Actually, I saw it after the fact
because they came. I'm trying to think on the broadcast. I feel like they maybe came back from break and showed it. They didn't like quickly notice it. I don't know. But
it looks like we just got a comment that we got.
Yeah, I was about to throw that up. Kevin O. Peterson. How does Glenn go from preaching win now to brushing off embarrassing play? Why was he so delusional about his coaching? Wasn't even good in Detroit, in my opinion. That may be harsh, Kevin. But
yeah, I think people are retroactively saying like his defense was never that good in Detroit. And if you look statistically, it wasn't like a dominant defense. But I do think, especially last year, I think he did a good job.
They were so hurt. Yeah.
Yeah. But to his question, like I mean, that was the lead to my story today. Like in February, he said every move we make is to win and to win now. And then he says yesterday, this is going to take some time, fellas. Like it's a real stark change in tone. And he was asked about actually like right before I got on here, Rich Cimini asked him about saying they're here to win now. And he was like kind of offended at the question because he's like, every coach is here to win now. Like everything we're doing is to try and win now. Rich's point was like, maybe it was a bigger rebuild than he realized. And I think that's true. I think based on everything he said publicly, and I think everything he said privately, I think he thought this team was going to be better quicker than they are. And he's finding out that there's a lot he has to do. And I think he deserves criticism for the way they have not been ready for the start of games. I think he deserves criticism for the way the defense has not improved on anything, how they keep getting, this team keeps getting penalized 10 plus times a game, how, the personnel that he had a huge hand in bringing in has not panned out almost universally. So, I think he has a hand in why they aren't able to win now. And the fact that he's the first ever 0-5 coach at the start of his career in Jets history, the fact that the Jets are the first teams that I believe the 30s that has gone the first 5 games without forcing a turnover. And I believe they're the first one that's 0-5 doing that ever. So like, this is like a new level of 0-5. Adam Gase and Rich Kotite were not 0-5 in their first year. Like that's, and I'm not saying he's going to be Rich Kotite or Adam Gase, but he's doing something that's never been done in Jets history, which whenever that's a sentence, that's a hard thing to accomplish because a lot of bad things have happened here. So, his seat is getting warmer in the sense that the fans are turning on the seat warmer because they're tired of seeing this. And, if they end this season 3-14, like, and then maybe this is a conversation for a future pod, like, what does it take for him to not be on the hot seat going in the next season? I still don't think there's any way he gets fired this offseason unless there's an absolute disaster the rest of the year. Maybe they go 0-17. Like, that's the only scenario I can think of where you fire him after 1 year. Cause I mean, they're paying him a lot of money from what I understand, like more than they paid Saleh, which I believe Saleh made a decent amount of money himself. So I think he's one of the higher paid coaches. I don't think Woody's going to be dying to pay a coach to not coach for him for 4 years. That being said, Woody's not a patient owner. So, I mean, I know people fight back with that because they let Saleh come back for the 4th year and all that stuff. But you fired him after 5 games and he got more involved. So I push back on that. Like, he got way more involved as they were being terrible, which implies a lack of patience ultimately. So anyway, like I don't know what the future holds. I don't know. We don't know yet if Aaron Glenn is cut out to be here long term because the early evidence is not good. I'm still willing to say it's early. And I know fans don't want to hear that, but it has to get better. Like, let's assume they lose to the Broncos. I think that's a fair assumption. Like, maybe they surprise us. You're 0-6. If you lose to the Panthers to fall to 0-7, the tone is going to change. Like, you can't lose to the Panthers. You can't lose to the Bengals. Like, there's teams like this that like are games on the schedule that you need to win. And I don't feel confident going into any game they're going to win at this point.
I mean, they were favored Sunday.
They were by the end. Right? They were favored by 1.5 points, which is crazy.
I can't imagine a world where they're favored again this year. Maybe when the Dolphins come to New York.
The Panthers are at home, and so are the Bengals. No, the Bengals on the road.
Oh, the Bengals.
The Browns are at home. Like, you could see the Browns or the Panthers games, maybe, or the Dolphins at home. Maybe it's like a 1 point or a pick 'em or something like that. But I don't know. This is bad. I mean, 0-5. I would have never thought that was a possibility before the season. So,
all right, that's going to do it for us.
More fun times.
Yeah. Next time though, you'll be in London, so that'll be exciting when we talk.
Yeah, we got to figure out.
Are you going to have time to talk later this week? You can carve out.
We are going to discuss. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll pack my microphone for sure.
We'll battle the time zones and hopefully.
Yeah.
And it's an extra time zone because I'll be in Chicago. So
right,
we'll figure it out.
Even further apart. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, man. Good stuff for us. Bad stuff for the Jets. 0-5. We'll see if they can turn it around in London against the Broncos, who just beat the Eagles in Philadelphia on Sunday. Thanks for everybody for joining us on the Flight Plan podcast. We appreciate you tuning in when things are going bad. So thanks. We'll talk to you all soon.